14 teams still in the field. We don't know when they're going to make the cut, but we are going to cut down soon, you have to assume, to 11 teams.
And I think when you think about, the temperature yesterday, it got really hot out there. We saw a lot of the individual athletes on that second event wearing gloves on their hands because obviously that turf is getting really hot. These teams are lucky they're going early in the morning. It'll be a different game for the individuals as it gets later on in the day.
Just saw a look at your top 10 teams across the Mayhem Freedom on top of the overall leaderboard, and there is the event description. 6,000 meter ruck run. Women begin with 15 pounds, the men begin with 20 pounds, and then after every lap they have to add that weight, and then again they have that 10-foot rope. You can see them holding on to it there. They have to hold on to that during the whole run. I mean, this one, it's just pretty simple. There's really not a whole lot of strategy here.
Pretty simple. The only other thing that if you've had, it will help to have had some experience maybe with running with a rope or running holding an object, just because the spacing, you want to know where to do that. You don't want to trip up on somebody's feet in front of you or possibly take off their shoe or something like that by stepping on their heel, some silly mistake that could cost you really big. But other than that, like you mentioned, pretty simple, just run.
And where the strategy comes in, though, is how you're going to distribute that weight. And we said this earlier, the simple answer is that the men get the heavier bags, the women get the lighter ones, and then you go ahead. What I'm going to be interested to see is if anybody decides to maybe change that and give maybe their stronger runner more weight and the weaker runner less.
Exactly.
CrossFit Mayhem Freedom, they are wearing the white leaders jerseys.
10 seconds.
It will be easy to pick out in that crowd as we get set to start event number 4, Team Ruck. We are underway.
And here we go, folks.
The other thing to note is hanging onto that rope means you only have the use of one arm when you're running. And I don't know if you gentlemen have ever run with a stroller. I'm going to guess not. But it is, you think, you have the use of wheels, but running without your arms or even just one arm can make running significantly harder.
Running is already significantly hard for me, so you take away one of my arms and it just becomes downright impossible. The 1.5 kilometer, sorry, the 1.5 kilometer loop, or meter loop, 1.5 thousand, 1,500 I should say, meter loop, will begin and end in the North Park, and that's where they will add the weight.
Look like JST out front early, Invictus in there somewhere, and there's Mayhem coming up on the side.
And this is a perfect example of an event where really you're not going to win this on the first lap.
No, sir, you're not.
No, but it can pay benefit to kind of get out of the crowd a little bit. That might be part of your strategy. Hey, let's get out in front and kind of command the lead. Don't have to worry about bumping into anybody.
And JST definitely has some space where you see a lot of these other teams are still just kind of bunched up right now.
Mayhem Freedom in those white jerseys are towards the back here, but again, this is the opening lap, the opening meters of the opening lap here, and what is going to be a long event as Team JST compete. They are out front earlier here, and look, this is a team that you talk about, you got to have a plan, but you might have to deviate from it. They have to start deviating from the plan. They're in 13th overall right now. They are beneath the cut line. They have 111 points. They trail Pro 1 Montreal by 21 points. So they have some work to do if they want to get themselves inside the top 11 and avoid that first cut.
You can see that right now, definitely coming out in this event with some urgency, getting out front. I'm pretty interested to see, okay, I can kind of see there that the course opens up a little bit. It looked like it was pretty tight. That might become a factor towards the end of the race. If you're trying to pass somebody, there's 2 or 3 teams in front of you and you can't get around, might not have an option. So again, coming out front could pay a benefit later in the laps.
And I believe there's a 40-minute cap on this workout, which means you have to average a 10-minute mile. Doesn't sound that fast.
No, but when you're
but put some weight on your back and a rope in your hand, and holding a 10-minute mile is going to be tough, I think.
Yeah, and adding weight as you go through is certainly going to make a difference. And we're approaching the 3-minute mark here in the opening stages of team event for the Ruck Run. And it's JST compete. They just left the right side of your screen. They are in the lead. OC3 is on the right of your screen, and then Invictus X in the green. Sam Dancer's in that headband.
It looks like Invictus, Team Invictus right behind them.
And that's a team you talked about just because it's, and as a member of the over 200-pound athlete club,
Right.
we don't like us some running.
No. Give me back my heavy barbell,
Yes.
please.
Put me on a rower and leave me alone.
Can I modify this workout with a row?
I don't think there are any scaling options to this one.
Call in my substitution.
Invictus X, they're slightly ahead now of, that's OC3 in the red, and then Invictus, they are in the dark shirts.
Looking to make a move on their own other team, the other Invictus team there.
This is the pack that's competing for second is JST Compete. That's the lead that they have. JST Compete, the team of Jack Cornthwaite, Stephen Fawcett, Helena Collins, and Jane Eady. They are out front. Each lap, 1,500 meters. And they will complete 4. And again, they begin and end in the North Park. And then once they get back in, they have 2 10-pound bags and 2 7-pound bags that they need to add to their packs, but they can distribute them however they like.
Sitting in the middle of the pack right there is Mayhem Freedom.
Don't stop. They're on the right. They just left the right of your screen. There's Mayhem Freedom, the overall white leaders jerseys. Project X, Con Porter and Brandon Swan leading the way for them. They were in the green. JST Compete now working their way on the back half of this run as they lead the pack.
And they have a significant lead, I would say, over the rest of that pack right now. But again, like you said, you're not going to win it on this first 1,500 meters.
Invictus X, OC3, and then Invictus. Don't Stop is there. And CrossFit Krypton, they're in the dark shirts, the bottom left of your screen. Bondel, Gym, Pro 1. Mayhem Freedom coming in. There's Project X. But JST Compete again coming in 13th place overall. Right now, below the first cut line. So they have some work to do. We don't know when that cut is coming, but we are reducing the team field from 14 down to 11, and now JST Compete, the first team, is back into the North Park, and now they have to add weight to their rucks.
This can also be a place where you can lose some time if you didn't communicate on who's going to pick up the weight, how you're going to do it. Making sure you have a good transition time, similar to something like a triathlon. You're just changing your shoes.
Right.
You don't think it's a very big deal, but you can lose some costly
fumble.
seconds. Yeah.
Yep. JST already has their packs back on, it looks like.
And JST Compete has added their weight, and they will exit the North Park first. Mayhem Freedom coming in, a little confusion, looked like to where they needed to go. CrossFit Krypton is Camila Blanc-Bazinet is helping load some packs. Cody Mooney giving assist now to Camila Blanc-Bazinet, and Alex Smith was helping out Jessica Griffith. And now Invictus is done. They're on their way out.
Mayhem.
Yeah, Mayhem's trying to get things sorted. They came in, went left, and they went right, and they went left again. So JST Compete, great transition for them, and they are out now on their second of 4 laps around this 1,500-meter course. Here comes Project X, Con Porter.
Dragging one of their girls along.
Based on how everybody was running around, or how Mayhem might have been running around there, it looks like it might have been first come, first serve.
Right.
Yeah.
Wherever you go in, first weight set you get to, load your packs.
That is Project X in the green. Brandon Swan, Con Porta, Jessica Coughlin, and Harriet Roberts. CrossFit Bondel Gym in the red behind them, and CrossFit Mayhem Freedom. They were able to get things figured out, and they are on their second of 4 laps, approaching the 8-minute mark. And people may just be joining us watching this event, and we talked about this earlier, but the two of you at the Rogue Invitational, as part of the Legends competition, were able to compete in an event with this pack on. How is this different than a weighted vest?
So just where the weight sits, I mean, honestly, there's things that make it more difficult. There's things that make it a little bit easier. For me, it's a little bit easier to breathe with the rucksack on. You don't have anything hanging over the front of you. At the same time, the way the weight sits off your back, any little shift in that weight throws you left, right, it bounces up and down, and that can be a cause of discomfort or just something you might not be used to and have to adjust to while you're running.
And I think, like you were saying, Dan, when you think about the duration that these athletes are going to have the weight distributed only on their back, that can, besides chafing and other things that can happen with the backpack, that can get really taxing on the back half of your body. And so the recovery piece will be really interesting for these athletes because, again, you're not just doing one pack for 1 mile. It gets heavier and heavier through each mile.
Mm-hmm. This is the second of 4 laps. 1,500 meters on the course. It's a 6,000 meter course in total when they're done running. It is a Vondel gym right now ahead of Mayhem Freedom. There's an opportunity here in this event for teams chasing Mayhem Freedom right now to possibly pick up some points, assuming that they stay where they are here in the pack. They have a 63-point lead right now over CrossFit Krypton after 3 events.
And with JST, besides them just having a nice open area to run through and not being bottlenecked, we saw the difference on the transition there when they added the weight. There was nobody around them. There was no confusion. They were able to get the weight in their packs, the rope back in their hands, and pretty much out back on the course, while the other teams were kind of fumbling around with their weight.
One more possible benefit of maybe coming out a little bit hot on the first lap.
Yep.
Victus X is in the green, OC3 in the red, just left of your screen. They're in the pack for second place. That is the team that leads. That's JST Compete. They basically led at the beginning of the first lap, and they have managed to hold on to it here in lap number 2. It's the team of Jack Cornthwaite, Stephen Fawcett, Helena Collins, and Jane Eady. They have that 10-foot rope that they have to hold on to the whole time while they're running. Pretty sizable lead here for JST Compete and Victus X behind them in second place, followed by OC3 Black. So the good news for OC3 Black is that they're ahead of Mayhem Freedom right now.
Right.
So opportunity here for some of these teams to pick up points and move themselves up the leaderboard. It's Invictus X, OC3, and then Invictus behind them. Invictus X in second, OC3 in third, and then Invictus in fourth, as there are 3 Invictus teams here competing in this event. Invictus Boston is the other one, and we have yet to see them here, as it looks like they've fallen back in the pack. They and the Central Beasts were 2 of the slower teams on that first lap. And not surprising when you considering the male athletes, especially on Invictus Boston. Craig Kenny and Tolamoro Aquino, they are guys who love barbells, probably don't like running as much.
Large humans.
Well, yes. Which makes where Invictus lies right now even that much more impressive, like we were talking about earlier.
Invictus X, Sam Dancer, Margot Alvarez, Holden Rethwill, and Christy Aramo. OC3 after them, and it's Invictus. CrossFit Krypton. Good news for them as well, as they are in second place, and they are well ahead right now of Mayhem Freedom, so looking to carve into that 63-point lead that Mayhem Freedom brought into this event. Great day 1 for Mayhem Freedom as they won 2 of the first 3 events. Vondel Gym in the red. The Mayhem Freedom in the white overall leaders jerseys. Closing meters here of lap number 2. And once again, they'll have to stop in the North Park and add 2 more 10-pound bags and 2 more 7-pound bags to their rucks. And they started with 20 pounds for the men, 15 pounds for the women. Team JST Compete, they are still your leaders.
About to enter North Park again, and it looks to me like their lead is just growing over the rest of the pack right now.
Definitely starting to see some separation, groups within this heat where you have to wonder, are places going to get nailed down before the event's even over?
Exactly.
You're going to be looking at 100-meter, 200-meter leads for
which
some
are
events.
just too big to
Too big to overcome.
JST Compete, they are back inside the North Park. And if you think back to 2017, JST won the run, swim, run event. That was a 6-person team, and they had to run in pairs. So they have some experience doing this.
And I think 3 of those team members are back on this team right now. So it bodes well for them. Again, like we were saying earlier, nobody's around. They get a clear, easy path to their bags.
Right back out.
Nobody's even back in the North Park yet.
JST Compete has already made their second transition, and now they are on the second half of this event as they start their third of 4 laps around this 1,500-meter course. Invictus X coming in, OC3 as well. And now adding weight.
Team JST built upon their lead there from around 17 seconds on lap 1. Now they've almost doubled it into a little over 30 seconds after lap 2.
This would be a huge win for JST if they can hang on here now. Invictus X, they just left the left side of your screen. And here comes OC3 Black. As Team Don't Stop in the red, they just entered.
Here goes Krypton.
CrossFit Krypton is out. Invictus, they're done. This is like a NASCAR pit stop. Rich Froning and company of Mayhem Freedom once again just trying to figure out where they're going to get situated. JST Compete, meanwhile, they are literally running away with us.
It actually did look like between Invictus and Krypton, Invictus came into the stadium first, but it looked like Krypton actually left first, so they had some kind of strategy. They were putting their weights in the bag, a better transition that put them ahead.
And that's again where we mentioned the top. Look, not a lot of strategy to this event except this part. This is where having a plan and knowing exactly what you're going to do comes in extremely handy, especially during in a tight pack.
Exactly.
Past the halfway point. 2 laps down, 2 to go. Mayhem Freedom, Dre Strom, China Cho, Teja Persevich, and Rich Froning trying to gain ground on that team. JST Compete, they have been your leaders from the beginning here. Once again, they came in 13th place overall. That is currently below the cut line. So a win for them would probably put them safely inside the top 10. Jack Hornthwaite and Stephen Fawcett sharing some water. Jane Eady and Helena Collins, the other 2 members of that team.
They still look really comfortable running too. Nobody on that team looks labored at all.
Here comes Project X. They are in the green. Behind them is OC3. They are in the red.
And Invictus directly behind them.
So basically the same order that we've seen throughout this event, but only that JST is widening the gap. That pack for second seems pretty much intact where it was on the first lap. This is the third of 4 laps here, 1,500 meters around the course. JST taking a look to their right. They can see the teams chasing them, and they know that they have a sizable lead. Team Don't Stop, they lead Rich Froning and company. And Mayhem Freedom, after that last transition, they sat in 9th place in this event. So
looks like they're going to make a pass right now.
That's Team Don't Stop that they're moving past. And we saw this in the opening event with Mayhem Freedom. They got faster as it went on, but that's going to be hard here. You know, fatigue adding weight as well to those packs.
And when you talk about separation of 20, 30 seconds in a second lap when you're almost about halfway through of a 6K run, that's a huge, huge distance to make up.
It is.
JST Compete, they are cruising right now as we have about 18 minutes gone by in event number 4, Ruck. They started with 20 pounds for the men, 15 pounds for the women in those rucks. They have since added 2 10-pound bags and 2 7-pound bags to that, however they've wanted. So potentially for the men, their packs have doubled in weight. About the same for the women as well, if they're evenly distributing that weight. We'll look at Invictus X's. Team JST is putting the finishing touches on lap number 3. And
They've
will
opened
have
up a
one more
good
transition
size
to make.
margin on the rest of the field. I would be really surprised to see anybody catch them at this point.
Well, Invictus X, they sit solidly in second place in this event, and they're in 10th right now. So this will certainly give them some breathing room. Again, we're cutting down to 11 teams. You don't know exactly when, but you got to think it's coming soon, and they are trying to get themselves inside of that cut line. OC3, meanwhile, is behind them. They're in third. OC3 comes in tied for 8th place with the Exterminators. So OC3 looking to put a little distance between themselves and the Exterminators, and that is Mayhem Freedom. They have a 63-point lead over CrossFit Krypton. And CrossFit Krypton, at the end of lap number 2, we're a couple spots ahead of Mayhem Freedom. So CrossFit Krypton looking to cut into that lead. And there is CrossFit Krypton. Mayhem Freedom. 2 firsts and a second yesterday.
Not a bad first day.
Not at all.
If this holds and CrossFit Krypton finishes 5th, it'd pick up 72 points. Mayhem Freedom right now is back in 9th. They would pick up 44, so that's a 28-point pickup for CrossFit Krypton. So they would almost cut that deficit in half if things stay the way they are. But here comes JST Compete. They are in the lead. They're staring at 100 points as they get set to load their packs for the final time and start their 4th and final trip around this 1,500-meter course.
And like you were saying, Sean, Team JST Compete really needed this first place finish, assuming that that's what they pick up here. Sitting in 13th place, staring in the face of cuts. This is a crucial performance for them.
First 3 events, they finished outside the top 10 in every one of them, a 10th, 11th, and a 13th. JST Compete, Cornthwaite on the right, Fawcett on the left. They're loading their rucks and getting them back into position to start lap 4. Here comes Invictus X. They're in second place. So that's how much of a lead that JST has right now in this event. And they are done, and Team JST Compete back out for their final lap. Invictus X now just getting back into the stadium, followed by OC3 Black.
I'm really impressed with Invictus X right now. So we know both Aramo and Margot Alvarez are good runners, but to see Sam Dancer doing so well, he's another 200-plus pound athlete, somebody that would much rather have a barbell right now than a rucksack for a run. Very impressive that they're sitting in second place.
Invictus X loading up their bags.
OC3 and Invictus also re-entered North Park.
Here comes Mayhem. So they're going to lose some ground here if this order stays the way it is right now. They're still probably going to have the overall lead, but that deficit that they had, that lead that they had over CrossFit Krypton, and they are now on the left side of your screen, CrossFit Krypton, that's going to shrink. And CrossFit Krypton is now just getting to their sandbags. So they have already loaded their bags? I can't tell if they're...
No,
I think they're just
still
getting
haven't.
there.
They just got in.
The Central Beasts, they currently are in 3rd place overall. They're about 42 points clear of Invictus, who sits in 4th. So things are going to be shaken up here on top of the overall leaderboard is China Cho loads Dre Strom's bag, and Tasia Persevich loads up Mayhem Freedom's bag. So this is big now as Mayhem Freedom, if they can get out of the stadium here before CrossFit Krypton, they can avoid losing any points, at least to the team that's right behind them in the overall standings.
Yeah, from about 5th to 7th, we've got CrossFit Krypton, Pro 1, and Mayhem Freedom. But there's only about 7 seconds that are separating them on laps. That is...
Yep.
They just exited right in front of Krypton.
But CrossFit Krypton is right behind them. So that is huge for Mayhem Freedom as they look to hold their lead over CrossFit Krypton. And the Central Beasts, who sit in third, they're way back in the pack. So Mayhem Freedom right now does not need to worry about them, as Team JST Compete really doesn't have to worry about anything other than a major just blowout at this point. A pulled hamstring or running the wrong route. I mean, they could probably stop and sign some autographs if they want, take some pictures with the fans, and they're still going to have a lead.
About the only thing you're worried about at this point in the race is some kind of cramp, something that, you know, maybe your body wasn't prepared for the ruck. You might cramp up, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen with all these teams.
What do you think the likelihood is that they're talking about, hey, we don't need to push it too hard here because we're on the field with everybody we need to beat?
I was going to say, I think we might have just saw that, at least with JST. They're up front. They were grabbing water on their last lap, you know, taking sips of it, sharing it around. I think they know they kind of have the lead or the win for this event secured, almost finished.
They're almost a full minute ahead of Invictus X, who's the only team directly behind them. So they've got some breathing room for sure.
JST Compete. I mean, look how much space is between them and second place Invictus X. This is a lead that JST Compete grabbed on the opening lap, and they have increased it every single trip around this 1,500-meter course. This is the 4th and final lap of this 6,000-meter run, and Christy Aramo looking like she's struggling with that ruck in the back there. I don't know. It looks to me that she has more weight in her pack than Margot Alvarez does.
I would almost bet that's the case. I did a Ragnar relay with Christy Aramo. I ran a very difficult race at the start. She beat me on her last attempt at that race. She had run about 15 miles at that time and still crushed everyone else. She's one of the best runners in the field, hands down.
Yeah, and she had a great result in Run, Swim, Run a couple of years ago when she competed here as an individual. JST Compete.
He's saying nobody's behind us. We can slow down.
Let's just, why don't we take a breather and walk for a little bit here. That's Jack Cornthwaite, who's obviously the biggest guy on that team.
Why are we still running?
They have yet to finish inside the top 10 in this competition. They sit in 13th place overall, but JST Compete is going to lock up their first event win and do themselves a huge favor as they look to stay alive in the competition here. We're going to cut the team field down to 11 at some point. They are on the wrong side of that line right now, but an event win and 100 points will certainly change that for JST Compete. Meanwhile, in second place, it's Invictus X. They are not nearly as safe as JST Compete, although they do have a lead as they keep looking over their shoulders to see where OC3 Black is. And Chrissy Aramo's really struggling with that pack.
But look at the size of her pack, even compared to Sam Dancer's. It looks like she's taken on at least Sam's and maybe some of Margot's weight as well.
But they are just about done. And behind them, trying to figure out who was in third place. No question who's in first. It's this team, Team JST Compete, who could honestly walk across the finish line at this point. They have that big of a lead. But they're going to make their way back inside the North Park and get themselves across the finish line and put 100 points in their pockets. So Invictus has now moved into third in front of OC3. OC3 is in the red. Invictus, they just left the right side of your screen. Invictus came in 4th place overall. And they're looking to close the gap between them and the Central Beasts. Central Beasts in 3rd place overall. They have a 42-point lead over Invictus for that final spot on the podium. And CrossFit Krypton, they are in 2nd. But things are going to get a little tighter in spots 2 through 5 after this event.
I am interested to see how that part of the race is shaping up right now in this. We've been seeing a lot of the top 2 times. I'm kind of interested to see where Mayhem Freedom, Krypton has kind of shook out. Maybe we might have to wait until they get back into the stadium for that.
Here comes Team JST looking for clarification on where they need to go. Chuck Carswell says, down that way and you'll be done.
Very, very impressive performance from Team JST Compete.
I mean, from the start to finish.
Yeah.
Dominant performance from Jack Hornthwaite, Stephen Fawcett, Helena Collins, and Jane Eady as they pick up the event win and earn 100 points in the process. Here comes Invictus X. They will sit in 2nd place in this event. If they stay here, they'll earn 93 points.
Which will give them a little bit of breathing room considering they went into this event in 10th place.
Yep.
That was a little too close for comfort. So this 2nd place finish will definitely give them a little bit of breathing room going into the next event.
And I think all 3 of them are going to owe Christy Aramo some post-competition drinks here, because she is doing more than her share of the work. As Invictus X is across the finish line, and they will finish 2nd in the event and earn 93 points. Here comes OC3 Black. They're behind Invictus.
And we were talking about Invictus earlier. They were a team that I said needed to do well,
Right.
but I did not have them pegged to do well. So very impressive 3rd place finish from some bigger teammates.
And this will be 86 points for them. Again, they trailed the Central Beasts by 42 for 3rd place. OC3, they're going to get a top 5 finish. They'll finish 4th. That'll be good for 79 points.
Here comes Mayhem Freedom coming in before
Looks like
Krypton.
they definitely made their move on Krypton.
So Mayhem Freedom, a team that we talked about it earlier. In the opening event, they got faster as it went on. Looks like they did the same thing here, because they were back in the pack, trailing the team that was chasing them in the overall standings. That's CrossFit Krypton, but Mayhem Freedom caught them on the transition at the end of lap number 3, and CrossFit Mayhem Freedom with another top 5 finish.
A couple of teams coming in close to each other.
I think this is Project X,
Project X, yeah.
which means
Project
they also
X
made a
is in.
huge move on Krypton.
They're in 6th. They're across the finish line. Here comes
Krypton.
what appears to be CrossFit Krypton. Vondel
CrossFit
Gym
Vondel
behind
Gym.
them. And they are in. So to recap, it's JST in 1st, Invictus X in 2nd, and Invictus in 3rd. OC3 Black will take 4th, and Mayhem Freedom right now in 5th place. Teams that have yet to finish: the Central Beasts, Don't Stop, the Exterminators, and Invictus Boston.
Don't Stop coming in.
Don't Stop, they were in 7th place. And a lot of the teams, or at least a couple of the teams that have been chasing them in the overall standings, have already finished. So they need to get across the finish line here, do some damage control, and hope that they did enough to keep themselves inside the top 11.
Right.
Team Don't Stop, they are across the finish line. Stephen Fawcett enjoying some water as his team gets a much needed victory here in event number 4 for the teams. And it's looking like JST Compete is going to avoid the cut. Here come the Exterminators. They were also flirting with the cut line, tied for 8th. And again, some of the teams that were behind them in the overall standings beat them in this event.
Invictus Boston crossing the line. They were sitting in 5th place going in.
And that means that the Central Beasts, the team that came in 3rd place overall, they're going to finish 14th. They're going to earn just 9 points. But again, they were in 3rd place overall. They're going to fall out of that spot, but they probably will not fall out of the top 11.
We're going to get a little mix-up on the leaderboard, aren't we, Sean Woodland?
Things are certainly going to change. Mayhem Freedom will remain on top of the overall leaderboard. The question is, who is in 2nd? It could be Invictus. They were in 4th.
In 4th.
They had a 3rd place finish in this event, and they lock up 86 points in the process. But it is likely that Mayhem Freedom's lead actually may have gotten bigger. We'll have to wait till the overall standings shake out.
We talked earlier about OC3 Black needed to make sure they had a good event here, and they definitely did in terms of finishing in front of Don't Stop, as well as Invictus Boston. They're going to make a jump there, probably make some swaps on the leaderboard with those 2 teams.
Yep.
Well, JST Compete got off to a great start.
Yeah.
And you look at an event like this and you think, okay, you're going out hot like this, you better be careful, but they knew exactly what they were doing.
They were hot and then only got hotter. I think they increased that final lap. They were a full minute ahead of the next team behind them.
Had incredibly fast transitions. There was no confusion when they walked into the stadium, popped the bags off, knew exactly what they wanted to do, knew who was going to load what weight into what bag, got them back on their back and out onto the next lap as fast as possible.
So besides that big lead in the beginning, which led to their easy transitions, the way which they were able to run that race, keep the lead, let it grow, really impressive.
And there you see Mayhem Freedom being in front of CrossFit Krypton. Somewhere on that last lap, they were able to make a pass, and actually I believe it was the transition. They came in and were able to
come out of North Park ahead of them.
Come out of North Park ahead of Krypton.
With Dave Castro talking things over with Mayhem Freedom. Did not win this event, but finished in the top 5 for the 4th straight time. They won the opening 2 events, took 2nd in event 3, and now a 5th place finish in event 4. They will hang on to the jerseys. The question is now, who will be chasing them in 2nd place? As it looks like the overall leaderboard is going to be shaken up as JST Compete gets the event win and earns 100 points in the process.
And you guys were leaps and bounds in front of some of the other teams, even on that very last lap. You clearly are a group of very strong runners. So what was going through your mind this morning when you first heard the announcement on this event?
Yeah, I mean, after yesterday, we were just praying for some running, some long distance running. And then when they announced it, we was confident that we knew we could do well. So the plan was just go out quite hard on the first 2 laps and then just kind of ease it off a little bit to finish off.
That's impressive. I think maybe not a strategy that everyone can keep up with for 4 laps. Speaking of hoping to hear something specific in that announcement, how has it been for you guys so far, not knowing what any of these events are going into the weekend?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. Usually, 1 or 2. But I mean, the unknown's good. It's a little bit different and keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, guys. Nice work.
Thank you.
The JST Compete, 26 minutes, 42.61 seconds. They get the event win by nearly a minute over Invictus X, and then it's Invictus. They finished in 3rd. OC3 Black will take 4th, and it's Mayhem Freedom with yet another top 5 finish, taking 5th at 28.4054 seconds. So the long, grueling event is now in the books for the teams as we get things situated here. Back inside the road tent here at
transition.
Yeah. Road tent here at Madison, Wisconsin at the Alliant Energy Center, and what has been a good day so far here as we kick off day number 2 at the 2019 Reebok CrossFit Games in an event that we have never seen before. We've seen team running with implements, we've seen them run with rescue sleds, and we've seen them run with ropes before, but we've never seen the Ruck Pack. As far as your expectations are concerned, how did that match up with them when you saw that event play out?
It turns out there was a little bit more strategy than maybe we had previously thought. You would think by looking at it, hey, you just need to be good at running, get out there and do your thing, but it did come down to how you position yourself on the rope. Did you communicate as a team there? You had teams looking back to see how far behind other teams were behind them, and then We mentioned the transitions, coming in, knowing where your weights are, how to load them, who's going to put what in what bag, and then get out back onto the next lap.
And I really didn't think there was going to be quite so much separation between all of those teams, but really impressive to see JST just take that lead and let it grow.
Yeah, and you mentioned JST, and we've talked about how order of events matters when you're dealing with cuts, because you want your strengths to come out early so you can get a lot of good positioning to avoid that cut. This is exactly what JST needed, because they had to get a top 3 result to keep themselves alive in this competition.
Right, they were 13th going into this event, and so they really, this was a do or die type of event for them, and they put the heat on in this event. It's not super technical. You just got to be willing to suffer. You got to be willing to go. Again, they did really well. They have 3 of their CrossFit Games 2017 members on this team, so they've worked really well together, and you could see it on the rope, on the way they handled their transitions. And it should be enough to put them above that 11th spot cut line.
Invictus, a bit of a surprise with their finish. They had on the results. I don't have the results in front of me, and I forgot we're already where they finished, but they get a top 5 result. That's going to be huge for them, and I don't think that's what we expected.
No, when you look at their team, or when you look at this event, you think the slowest runner is just going to be as fast as you can possibly go, and not to knock on Sam Dancer, he's a large human, loves to throw the barbell around. But yeah, they finished second place. So Chris Guillermo, both Margot and Holden Russwell, all very talented runners. They definitely had a plan here, and impressive that they were able to do as well as they could.
You know, back in the early days, I remember Greg Glassman used to tell us, show me a guy that can deadlift some really heavy weight, literally this is what he would say, and run fast, and that's a beast. And that is exactly what Sam Dancer
and that goes back to the test
right?
that we saw, at the games in 2009, and then again in 2016 at the Ranch Deadlift Ladder. And Sam Dancer won the Ranch Deadlift Ladder, but finished dead last in the trail run.
Right.
Mayhem Freedom, they do get a top 5 finish, and they're just fine in first place. The leaderboard is going to get shaken up behind them a little bit, but they got to be happy with that result, I think, right?
I'm impressed with the composure that they had over the event, right? They're that team that tends to make a build during an event, right? They tend to go faster each round. We mentioned that, and we definitely saw that here. They didn't start necessarily where we thought they would, or they were in the kind of the back half of the pack with CrossFit Krypton being in front of them, a team that they wanted to keep behind them. But by the last lap, they had a smooth transition, got back out onto the final lap before them, and were able to close the door.
But I think that's actually a good point. It was by the last lap that they had a smooth transition. Their first 2 transitions were really sloppy. There was a lot of bumbling and just not something I would have expected to see from CrossFit Mayhem Freedom. Again, nothing I don't think they should worry about, but just interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think this is only the second time that they've ever competed with these, and I don't know how much they practice with them, but you need to get experience matters. We've seen how good they are when they get to practice with the worm. I guarantee you that some rucksacks are on their way to Cookeville, Tennessee right now.
They've already been ordered.
And they're going to be practicing with that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get you set for individual action as the men and the women, they are going to face a ruck run of their own. Stay with us here on the Rogue Iron Game as we continue our coverage of the 2019 Reebok CrossFit Games.